Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a huge pattern change that'll be coming to the United States over the next couple of weeks. And this pattern change is going to bring a very active weather pattern to much of the country. And this is going to lead to some more significant severe weather events as we get closer to the end of March. And this is all due to the transition of El Nino to La Nina, where we are going to see a completely different weather pattern as we head closer to the late spring and into the summer. But first off, we're going to be dealing with some more severe weather before to the end of March. I'll be giving you the latest breakdown on everything that you need to know in this forecast, and let's begin with what's happening right now in the United States today. And we will begin with the southern plains, and this is an area that is still quite active right now. We've had a lot of showers and thunderstorms across areas in Texas for the last 24 hours. We actually had some massive hailstorms back down in areas near Houston. We actually saw upwards of baseball-sized hail just northwest of Houston by about 30 to 40 miles yesterday afternoon. So there are still some showers and thunderstorms ongoing down here. Overall, the severe weather threat is beginning to dwindle. We're not going to see nearly as much severe weather today, though there is still a risk. It's definitely going to be on the lower side of things, primarily in the same area as yesterday. So if you're back down in South Texas, be mindful. More large hail and damaging winds will be possible. Further up to the north, we have another cluster of showers and thunderstorms moving through areas in North Texas and Oklahoma. This will continue, and a lot of this is due to this low pressure system that is sitting near Arizona and Utah. And the reason why we're having all this rainfall is, one, this upper level low is spinning tons of moisture out of areas like the Pacific Ocean, and that's due to a strong southwesterly flow. And essentially, we're getting all this rain activity down here in the southern plains, and that's going to continue all the way through the end of the weekend. But overall, the rain coverage will begin to decrease as we get closer to the end of the weekend and as well as early next week. Another thing I want to mention is that we have a large low pressure system back up in Canada, and this is actually a cold blast. Believe it or not, we are going to see some well below average temperatures start to usher into areas in the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and back through the Southeast as we go into early next week. This is going to really cool down a lot of areas. Below freezing temperatures will be possible as far south as central Georgia and central parts of even Alabama as we go into Tuesday morning. So be very mindful of that. Make sure you're protecting sensitive vegetation. We'll be talking a little bit more about that here in just a second. And then the West Coast, really dry right now. Obviously, it's been very active this winter. We are not really going to be dealing with anything there, though, for the next few days. Now, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this forecast, we are going to have a very active weather pattern as we get closer to the end of March, specifically around about March 25th to about March 30th. That is the time frame that I'm the most concerned about right now for a large-scale storm out of a trough ejection that'll come out of the western tier of the United States. And one of the biggest things that we need to look at is obviously the storm itself. How large will this potentially be? What kind of impacts will it bring? But since we're looking at a long-term storm that is still over a week out, things definitely remain very uncertain. But one thing that we can look at is the supercell composite parameter. Now, this is a fancy word really for seeing showers and thunderstorms in a particular area of the United States. And this is as we go into the last week of March. And notice all this red. Obviously, it looks scary and all that, but that basically means we at least have some sort of high likelihood of seeing thunderstorm activity in this area that could lead to some severe weather. And the key word in this particular program is supercell. That means that we will have the potential for some rotating supercells, for example, in this area as we go into the last week of March. At least there's a chance. Again, it's not a guarantee at this point, but it is getting more and more likely. And this is all due to the jet stream. We're going to have a trough ejection most likely. And I'll be showing you that here in just a moment. But I do want to mention again, if you're anywhere back in the southern plains, lower Mississippi Valley, perhaps even back into areas like the Ohio Valley, just be mindful of this as we go into the end of March, because there is a better likelihood that we'll at least have some sort of large-scale trough ejection that could easily lead to some severe weather. Now, to look at this storm in particular near the end of March, I want to look at two different things. And the first one's the jet stream. This gives you an idea of the weather patterns that are happening in the United States, especially in the upper levels, because the jet stream is located in the upper levels. It's at 300 millibars, which is well off the ground. And this gives you an idea of, again, what the weather patterns are in the country. Right now, we have a large trough coming out of Canada. This is going to bring all of that cold air into much of the Midwest and back through the Southeast. We'll be talking more about that, by the way, in a few minutes. Here's your low pressure system in the upper levels sitting in the Southwest. That's actually going to sit there, by the way, all the way through the early week. It'll start to backtrack more, and it's not going to get nearly as much moisture pull out of the Pacific Ocean. So overall, areas in the southern plains will begin to get a little bit drier as we go into the mid to late week. But once we get closer to Thursday and Friday, that finally will start to take off and move to the east by Thursday and Friday. But notice this as we go into Saturday into Sunday. Now, the European model and a bunch of other computer models are strongly hinting at a large-scale storm sometime in the early portion of next week. So around March 25th or so. Notice this on the jet stream as we get closer to that time frame. Very strong jet stream here. And then here's your trough down here in areas like the southern and central plains. And even in the lower levels, if you look at the 700 millibar chart, for example, we actually have some strong low-level winds across areas in Texas. Now, I do want to mention again, this is still well over 7 days out, so minor details like this can easily change, and the position of this storm could also very easily change. But the biggest thing that you need to take out of this is that there is likely going to be a large trough ejection by the end of this month, and that could very easily lead to a lot of severe weather for those in the Great Plains, and then eventually perhaps even into the Ohio Valley, and as well as back into the southeast. Now, let's put this into more simplistic terms with the future radar, because a lot of those details like the jet stream might seem a little bit confusing. So let's kind of break you into the future radar, give you an idea of what we're talking about with this particular storm, and also other stuff that'll be happening here over the next 7 to 10 days. Beginning with this weekend, going into tomorrow, notice showers and storms right along the Gulf Coast. There is a marginal threat of severe weather down there, mainly for some isolated damaging winds, maybe a brief tornado. Once we go into Monday into Tuesday, things really drying out across much of the country. Perhaps a little bit of snowfall back up in the northeast, but nothing out of the ordinary for the most part. By the time we go into Thursday into Friday, we will have another shot of severe weather by the end of this upcoming week, so around March 21st, March 22nd. Keep that in mind. Thursday night into Friday, some severe weather may occur across areas in Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, and eventually into the southeast as we go into Friday. By the time we go into Saturday into Sunday, the European model again shows this large-scale storm developing across a large chunk of the Great Plains. Key thing, though, is that this is still well over 200 hours out. Things will easily change with this, including the potential for snow, including where the severe weather happens, are very, very, very uncertain at this point. And obviously, if this storm even happens at this particular day, still remains uncertain, because we're still talking about a forecast that is well over 7 days out. And the accuracy of forecasts beyond 7 days out, in most cases, or at least some cases, it's like putting a Plinko chip down a board of like 6 or 7 different pegs. It's like a 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 chance of getting the forecast even remotely close to right. So just keep that in mind. Things definitely will change with this, but there is obviously some increase in concern here that there will be some sort of large-scale storm sometime by the early portion of the following week. One thing that is a bit more certain, though, at this point is that we will likely be seeing some sort of severe weather event Thursday and Friday. It's probably going to be a bit more small scale, though. I don't expect a severe weather outbreak at this time for those back down in the southern plains or the lower Mississippi Valley. But again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll be keeping you posted with everything on these storms all the way through March, April, May, the entire severe weather season here across much of the United States. Now, one other thing that's changing this weekend are the temperatures. Notice we have this cold air mass that'll be building across areas in the Midwest by Sunday into Monday. This is going to grow in size and bring well below average temperatures to a large chunk of the southeast United States, and areas in the Midwest and Ohio Valley will also feel the big shift of temperatures. By the time we go in later portion of the week, by the way, we're going to get another cold air mass building across areas in Canada and as well as the northern tier of the country. That'll also cool some areas down, and if we do get that large scale storm for the following week, there will likely be another cool down in parts of the northern plains. Now, in terms of the actual temperatures, Monday morning, it's going to be quite chilly in the Midwest, especially. Many areas going to be dropping into the 20s and teens for low temperatures. By Tuesday morning, notice that below freezing line is going to drop all the way back down into Arkansas, even into Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. Now, that will not go all the way down to southern Georgia, but it will at least go through areas in central and northern Georgia. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.